Welcome everyone. For everyone who doesn't see us, it's Jack Marshall and Max Dupra. I think we're gonna call this 20 years and counting, Big Sky Conference Men's Basketball Podcast. Max, how you doing today? And let everyone know a little bit about yourself as someone who's covered and watched some Big Sky basketball.
Yeah. You already got my name, but um, yeah, I'm Max. I have been watching and I've both been watching and covering Big Sky basketball for quite a while now. I covered the University of Montana when I was a sports reporter and sports editor at the Montana Kaiman. But before that, I was just a kid in Missoula who loved basketball, both men's and women's. I come from a family of season ticket holders, so I got to see a lot of it. Basketball is my favorite sport out of any sport, so I love it. And I still pay attention to it. Currently, I'm just sports reporting up in beautiful Lake County right now, but yeah, I love it. It's exciting that we get to do this now. I feel like when you brought this up to me, I was very giddy. I was very giddy about it. So glad to make it happen now.
Yeah, for sure. And I grew up an hour from Bozeman, so I grew up not going to Montana State Bobcat basketball games because they were pretty bad. I've been in the Brick Breeden plenty of times, and then since I went to college with Max, I've been to Boise. I went to Boise twice. You did too, right, Max?
Yes, yeah,
I
went to
both
them.
went to Boise twice. Yeah, I went there alone once, but so love small conference college basketball mainly because of a gambling addiction I suffered in college, but also because I just love it. And then Big Sky basketball I think is the best, but it's also 20 years and counting since they've won a game in the NCAA tournament in Big Sky. So hopefully we'll get it one day. We've had a couple close calls. We'll probably look back on those at points as we go week to week. They play on Saturdays and Thursdays, so hopefully we'll drop the pod on Sundays or Mondays. So that's the program for now. So I think the first thing we have to do is just a quick little weekly recap. Nothing too crazy happened to Big Sky. At the beginning of every podcast, we'll go through kind of how every team did, but more importantly, just um, how each team's looking. As Max, what jumped out to you of the first week of first? Most teams have played two games. A couple teams only played one of Big Sky basketball.
Yeah, it's very clear to me, and I feel like this is something that I've noticed a lot. It's Portland State they always play the good teams well, but I feel like over the years they've never really been able to put together something super strong. This year I'm really seeing some exciting stuff, and we'll get obviously to more about Portland State, especially as particular player. So tune in for that. But Portland State is just like two really gritty overtime wins against, Weber State, obviously, not one of the strongest teams in the conference. They've had their moments, but could definitely see more from them. But Idaho State, I don't, Idaho State's one of the better teams right now, at least top half of the conference. They have a really good win. I really like what I see there in this first week. Obviously Montana had an unbelievable, we'll bring up Money Williams later on too,
Yeah.
but like had an unbelievable game against Northern Colorado. I really thought Northern Colorado was going to be the team to beat. And again, Big Sky Conference, the parity in it is kind of insane. So, yeah, I think Portland State, watch out for them. We'll talk more about them later. But I really liked what I saw from those teams. Obviously, Montana State's going to do what they do this year. They beat Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado down a lot now, and then obviously took care of business against a pretty disappointing Northern Arizona team. But those are really the big things right now. The Montana schools doing what they need to do, and Portland State really shining at the moment.
Yeah, and the only thing I would really add to that to round it out is Idaho also started 1-0 in conference, and they're also undefeated at home this year. They're 5-0, but obviously we got to look back. We're starting the podcast really a week into conference basketball season, but we can always look back at non-conference. If you don't know much about the Big Sky Conference, it's a really tough conference to be in, especially if you're like these Montana schools, these Idaho schools to schedule teams. So you get a lot of those games, and especially now that if you play a non D1 team, it doesn't affect your net rating at all. You get a
Mhm.
lot of games against teams you've maybe never heard of unless you've watched Frontier Conference basketball like I have. We're going to hear about Frontier Conference team. And also you get a lot of those bye games that aren't very close. But nonetheless, we did. There's a lot of common opponents of non-conference teams, so we're gonna go through. We each have split our teams in half to look at starting at the just kind of the overall non-conference standings, bottom to top. So Max, I think you had Eastern Washington, or did I have Eastern Washington? Hold on.
I had Eastern Washington.
Okay, tell me about my guy Andrew Cook is on the Eagles roster, but I think he's hurt this year. Tell me about and my guy Ryan Lundgren's an assistant coach. Not a lot of
Yeah.
positives though in Sheeny this year, unfortunately for my boys over there.
No, 2-12 this year to start. It's been a little tough. They have
Yeah,
one Division One win at the
yeah,
moment.
okay, yeah. Well, we're gonna do the best win and worst loss. So tell me
Yeah.
the best win. Start me off good.
Best win. Their only Division One win of the year is unfortunately against Kansas City, which Kansas City is unfortunately one of the weaker Division One teams this year. If we're looking just at Ken Palm, they're 328, which is pretty.
How many D1 teams are there?
I mean, that's a good. I did.
365, so they're ahead of
Okay,
40 teams. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there we go. There we go. So not the worst, but I mean, they might have. I didn't really look, but they might have the worst win out of all of the Big Sky teams right now. They're in terms of their best win, that might be the worst one out of all of the ones we're gonna say. So,
I think I got one that's got another bad one.
oh, we
We're
got
about to
another
hear
bad.
that though. Yeah.
Okay, well
Sac State
then.
only has one D1 win
Oh,
too.
I know who you're talking. I know who you're talking about. Okay, but yeah, no, they're pretty low, pretty low. It's not great. Their only other win is against Eastern Oregon NAIA school, so
Hey,
it's
that's
a
Frontier Conference, baby.
So
I think
like,
they're Cascade in basketball, but you know,
yeah, but they're like that's a familiar name to us, but unfortunately for a lot of people,
the
it
bracketologists don't like that necessarily.
no, not
No.
not at all, not at all. And we'll get into like later on, obviously another pretty bad loss that I have, but obviously not the worst like Division One loss technically, but we'll get into technically a worse loss than this, but I or worse moments than this, but I mean yeah, win against 328 Kansas City is like I mean, it's about as bad as it gets. Obviously, not the worst, but when it's one your only Division One win, and then obviously their worst loss was 245 Denver, which I honestly thought Denver was going to be much better than they've been this year.
Yeah,
So
a lot of Big Sky teams have played Denver this year.
yeah, so you can kind of tell like the unfortunately the upper echelon of the Big Sky teams usually are able to kind of clean up Denver. Unfortunately, the lower levels, not really able to do it. And Eastern might be I mean, obviously we'll get to Sac State, but Eastern might be the worst Big Sky team just strictly off of who they've played. But I mean, to be fair, they have played a lot of good teams too. I mean, you play quite a few, but also they lost to 224 at Central Arkansas. The bar is not super high for this team this year, unfortunately, going in.
Yeah, not great, not great. Okay, so moving on, another team at the bottom is we're gonna look at Sacramento State. Obviously, I wouldn't say an off-season media darling, but the school Sacramento State's done a lot of things. They're 4-10 overall. And the football team made some waves this year in Big Sky. Basketball team, Mike Bibby's the head coach. Shaq's son is on the team, and Mikey Williams is on the team, which is insane. He said he was going to go to the NBA from Sac State. So, you and me are definitely going to go to the game when Mikey Williams plays for Sac State, but they just been pretty bad. Mikey Williams has been playing better basketball, but they've been pretty bad. Their one D1 win was against Presbyterian Blue Hose,
Yep,
who
yep.
are 291 in Ken Palm, so not in the 300s at least. So not that bad. And they've gone to go 7-8, so like that's not too bad. But they've played a lot of California teams out there, so they get to play those non-con like Big West teams. And they've had some tough losses, UC Davis.
Yeah.
But the one that jumped out at me, they lost to Cal State Northridge, which was 210 in Ken Palm, which isn't that bad. Sac State's 277 for comparison, but they give 100 points and Cal State Northridge's whole starting lineup all scored 15 or more points.
Okay.
So it wasn't a lot of defense, but
No.
Mikey Williams he's been putting up some numbers recently. So
He has. We'll probably mention him more obviously throughout these, but I you'll look at if you just look at his game by game, like who he plays well against, and you'll really see kind of a pattern. It's one of those things where obviously top Big Sky players are going to struggle against top teams, but it's very evident when your top player is scoring single digits against, you know, decent Ken Pom teams. That probably says a lot about, you know, kind of who you're funneling your
Yeah.
offense to, where the ceiling is for that team. And Mikey has had good games against decent teams, but like he has had some really poor performances at times that I think have really decided at, where Sac State falls in this Big Sky kind of hierarchy.
Yeah, he's kind of crazy just how good he was, and like I mean he was playing last year too at UCF, which is a Big 12 school. They weren't like a tournament
Mhm.
team, but he was he played for him.
Mhm.
And you'd expect just like usually when you see guys like that who just fall so far down to the Big Sky, especially in basketball, by the time they get there, they just go nuclear. Like it's like why isn't Mikey dropping 40 a game? And it did
Mhm.
just start the Big Sky conference play, but on a team that bad, you'd think maybe he'd be doing a little better, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next on our list here? Uh, one second. Hold. Northern Arizona. You got the NAU.
Oh yeah, Northern Arizona. You were so nice as to list out the things for me, which I appreciate. And I do agree with your assessment here. I mean, their best
Oh yeah,
win.
I scouted them on accident. That's on me.
Yeah, their best win. I mean, it's between obviously like their win against 233 SEMO and 229 Cal Poly. Um, but I do agree. I think SEMO is probably the more impressive win. It is kind of nice when you get to see a team that's not having a super great season, outperform a team that should, really on paper, probably beat them by you know, at least a little bit. I thought SEMO would probably play them a little bit better, but honestly, like NAU hasn't been having a phenomenal season, so to have a win like that and have a win against Cal Poly, I think you take those going into conference season, into the conference start. So I feel like another team kind of in the past, kind of like Portland State, like they kind of always compete. They always play well against good teams. I don't know if this year is going to be a year where they necessarily do as well, but I I would not be surprised if they find find flow somewhere. But they actually they have a couple okay non-conference wins. But I mean, their loss to 198 San Diego, not a great one, but not the worst loss you can have. I think we we have some much better teams that have some way worse
Yeah,
losses that are
that's
coming
true.
up. So like I think for NAU, I mean, I'd be interested to see how they
Yeah.
do. They're
That
obviously
Cal Poly team played Montana on the road pretty hard too, so that's a pretty good win as well.
Yeah, like we don't talk enough about like these Big West teams play the Big Sky every year, and it's kind of a crapshoot like which one is going to come out and like really give those top teams trouble. And I like Cal Poly. Like every year, Cal Poly always does some really nice stuff, and obviously they have the like football adjacency with the Big Sky, so you have that connection. It kind of feels like a conference game when they play each other, when they play a lot of these teams. So yeah. I honestly I like coming into this year. I think NAU, the ceiling is still there for the team. They just have to pick it up a little bit quicker than maybe I'd like them to be picking it up right now. So not bad losses, but um, not good losses, but not bad losses, and then some pretty decent wins for this team.
Have you checked who their leading scorer is?
I didn't check that right off the top of my head, no.
He's Zach Davidson.
Okay.
Former Montana
Yeah,
Grizzly,
I
actually.
uh I didn't realize he was leading. I knew he was on the team.
He like didn't play for Montana. Like he didn't like last year.
No.
Like wasn't in the rotation at all. He played in games for Montana for like I think he was there for
Yeah.
2 years, and now he's the leading scorer at NAU. That's kind of crazy.
I knew he was playing for NAU now. That was not new to me. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
realize I knew he had a couple games. I
he
guess I
leads the conference in shooting percentage too.
shooting percent. Oh, well, I knew that. I guess
Okay.
that would make sense. Because he had the really what he had like I know he's had good games, but I just remember their game against Drake, he had like 30 or something. Like he was
Hey,
pretty
look
like
at
he
that.
started the year really strong. So I
Yeah.
guess he's just been consistent and I didn't really notice it. But no, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. I think moving on, Weber State 7-8 overall now. We're the overall record, we're kind of counting their couple Big Sky games, but overall, you get a
Mm,
glimpse in non-conference.
mm,
Weber played against like their 130s to like the 1 to 200s.
mm,
In Ken Palm, they all lost to those ones, but they beat some pretty
for sure.
bad teams, which is we talk about that's good and bad. So
Mm,
their worst loss, they lost to St. Thomas, which is another one of those. They do that Big
right.
Sky Challenge, so we saw some
Mm,
teams play them. Not a great, but the worst was 209 Utah Tech. But yeah, really not too many bad losses for Weaver because
mm,
209 is nowhere near. I mean, Weaver's 223 in Ken Palm, but
mm,
at home, they get the regional rivalry, so they're probably pretty mad. But best win beat 208 Campbell, one above Utah Tech, not too bad. And kind
mm,
of like on also another note, they did also beat that really, really bad Kansas City team, the
yeah,
337 Ken Palm. And they beat 301 Oral Roberts. So they took care of the 300 teams, which is
yep,
important. So kind of just middle of the road, like Weber kind of has been. Weber's kind of formulas wait for an NBA player to show up in Ogden. However, that keeps working out, I don't know. But I don't know if they quite have one right on their roster, so they're just kind of mediocre for the time being.
yeah. I don't want to be like the person who's like, oh, Damian Lillard is carrying the legacy of Weber State, but
Well,
like I
hold
feel
on. What
like
about Dylan Jones?
oh well, I know Dylan Jones.
Yeah, but he
Dylan
never
Jones
played in
is
the tournament either.
we
Neither did.
watched you and I watched Dylan Jones dominate some games, but I mean at the end of the day, like if you're recruiting, I mean what's better than to just be like, oh, hey, we had Damian Lillard. Like you don't even have to mention Dylan Jones, and you'd be like, oh wait, yeah, we also have another guy who was on a championship level team in OKC. Obviously, he didn't play, but like that's the thing is you can if you're recruiting, I feel like that's just got to be up there for if you have made a guy who is a perennial all-star or was a perennial all-star, that's a good sign. And so there, I would love to see them get back to those heights. It's not like they've clearly had good seasons, but to be fair, Dame wasn't really winning in the Big Sky. Like he was winning the Big
No,
Sky Conference, but we know what teams were stopping him from reaching, the Big Sky title game. So like, or the Big Sky championship. So
yeah, I
like
mean he
that's
played post '05. He sure didn't bring he didn't bring the Big Sky a win in the NCAA tournament. We're still waiting for our hero, our March Madness kind of Cinderella legend.
we got.
We need a glue guy.
We'll bring yeah, we'll bring up a
We're
couple
gonna get
guys.
one. We're gonna get one.
We'll talk about some predictions, but I feel like you got to have a couple guys that you're hopeful about.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, Weber State. Did you do Portland State's next? Obviously, Portland State. They always have like top upper echelon, like near the top of the conference team with some just freak athletes. They always have that.
oh yeah, yeah. I want to keep one name for later on, but they have a guy that we're going to talk a lot about later on. But Portland State, like they don't their worst loss, and it's by like a huge margin, is or yeah, sorry, I'll start with their best win. They don't have like other than like their conference wins, like their best win, I bolded the wrong one, but it's probably over Utah Tech. Like they don't
Yeah.
have like a ton of like super great non-con wins. Win over South Dakota, win over CSU Bakersfield. Like those are decent wins, nothing crazy, but like they're beating bad teams for the most part, except they had the one big blemish on their record is Omaha. They lost to Omaha
Ooh,
and they're 272. Like,
they're a hundred spots behind them in Kem Palm.
yeah, like it's a pretty like that's the thing that sucks is Portland State, and this happens every year. I was talking about it. Like they play good teams well, but they never really figure it out. I think this year they're a lot further than they were the past couple of years, but that loss against Omaha is just like such a terrible loss to have, especially when you really aren't playing a ton of like amazing. Your wins are not against a ton of amazing teams, and your losses are against, like you have a loss against Stanford and, top 100 San Francisco. Like those aren't bad losses, but you have to win against the Omahas of the world. Like if you're going to compete for the Big Sky, like I want to see more consistency there. But they've like we talked about earlier, two gritty wins in conference, like they'll probably be fine, but it still sucks. Like it's not a good thing for them. even if it doesn't necessarily matter too much going into conference play, but you don't
And
love to see it.
I don't know if it was part of the whole, yeah, it was part of the Big Sky Summit League challenge.
Mm.
They scored 55 points in that game against Omaha.
Yes. Yeah, it was a pretty I mean if we were covering both these conferences, I could tell you right now what Omaha's best win would be, and it would be against Portland State. Like that's I don't even have to look at the rest of their
Well, what?
schedule.
They're 7-10. They're
They're
7-10.
7 they're 7
They're
I
7-10.
feel I
No, you're right though. They haven't.
there's I was gonna say like there's
I
no
mean,
way they have a better
not
win
yeah,
than
not
that.
looking great. I'm not
166
gonna
is
lie.
like Portland State's 166. They're pretty damn good. Like that's a pretty so
They beat York College of Nebraska too. That was another big win for Omaha. But
oh
you're right. Yeah, Portland State kind of a. You're right. I like you said off the rip. They're always a team that has like the really high. They play really up to good teams, but like when it doesn't matter as much, maybe they don't always take care of business. That's gonna be said a lot of college basketball teams, but you know.
yeah.
Okay,
But
moving on. Idaho State. I get this one. I did. Idaho State seems like they're, or no, did you get Idaho
I did
State?
Idaho State,
They
sorry.
kind of flipped that. Well, that we were alternating, but the standings kind of changed a little after non-con. They're 8-7. So tell me a little more about Idaho State.
Idaho State, they see they're a team that I think is like on the cusp of being really, really solid. Like they have some pretty decent players. I like Connor Hollenbeck. Like he's a solid dude. Like he's been pretty consistent for them. Um, and they have some pretty like good I don't know, like they don't have like a ton of like awful losses, but like they have like their best win is probably against CSU Northridge, who I think CSU Northridge went up in Ken Palm a little bit. They're now in the top 200
They
for
must have
us.
beat a Big West team since I last checked. But
I was
that,
gonna
yeah,
I was gonna say they definitely moved up um top
they
200, but I think it's
they
solid.
killed CSU Northridge, 82
Yes,
to 50.
yes, they did. Yeah,
That's
they're
that's a
like
good one. That's a good
It's
one.
a very it's a good win for them. And like they're probably their worst loss is UC Davis, which UC Davis is also up in the top 200 now too. So like you're I think my ceiling for Idaho State is like pretty decent, but like this Idaho State might be like Portland State in past years, where like they're gonna play up to good competition at times. Like I mean, they played up to Portland State. Like they played up really well. I thought that was a game they probably shouldn't have been as close in, and they took it to OT. So like I don't know. I like what I see at points. Obviously, their only other conference win is against Sac State, and that's a pretty. I don't know if that's a good test for like
How good you
how
are.
how good you are. Sorry, Sac State, but it's just you guys in Eastern probably aren't, but like they're a team I'm optimistic about. I think they're gonna be a tough out in the tournament when it comes around to it. So I like them. I like what I'm seeing here. So yeah.
When you shouted out Connor Hollenbeck, did you know where he was from?
I don't want I didn't bring this up in the intro, but I lived in a little town called Rapid City, South Dakota, and Connor Hollenbeck, I may or may not know his dad, the athletic director for St. Thomas More High School in Rapid City, but he is good. Connor
Yeah,
Hollenbeck,
he's putting up
he
14 a game.
he played he was a decent player, decent pickup. So yeah, no, Connor Hollenbeck, uh
Yeah, he's
if
having a good senior year. He's,
yeah, if you listen to this podcast, I know your dad and I wrote a story about you guys getting a new track last 2 years ago
oh,
now.
let's go.
So shout out St. Thomas More. I won't talk about that, but the track before it was like a gravel strip around, but probably still nicer than what Shields Valley had. So
Okay, leave Shields Valley High School track. Well, yeah, we do have a gravel track. We don't they don't do track meets out there. We go to Livingston if we want rubber. That's pretty obvious. So these next three teams are all 8-7 between Idaho State, Montana State, and Montana. So we're
Mhm.
moving to some more of the local teams in Montana State.
Mhm.
Um, they had a really bad loss.
Yeah,
They lost to I think I typed it in wrong. I believe they're 301. I could always check on KenPom. They lost to Oral Roberts.
yeah.
Oral Roberts is oh, they moved up a little. They must have
Great.
gotten a big win. They're 293 in KenPom. They're not
Oh,
good. They're
no, that's
they're
pretty
they're
sick.
pretty bad. They don't. their metrics are look a little better on like Ken Palm and stuff than they are, but Oral Roberts is a bad team to lose to. So that's not great for Montana State. They did get a good win, a really good win actually against St. Thomas.
Mm,
In that Summit League challenge thing, and St. Thomas is ranked pretty like 30 spots ahead of them, and Ken Palmer, I guess, a little less than that, but they
mm.
beat that Cal Poly team too that UM also beat. Um, and Alaskan Assassin Pat McMahon, 24 points in St. Thomas, had that written down. They got some. They've everyone's a little focused on their football team over there at Montana State, but their basketball team's actually playing some good ball as of late.
We'll bring up another name later on too
Oh
from
yeah, there's another
that.
guy. He reminds me of myself on him, so I'm not gonna spoil it. Get too excited. Did
I,
you have
that's like,
Montana though? Did you have the Grizzlies?
did you compare yourself to? I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
I'll
say
let you
who.
know.
I'm not
I'll-
gonna say who it is, but that's basically like that's like I'm not gonna make any comparisons, but that's like me comparing myself to like Pat
There-
Bev or something.
There's a couple guys. There's a couple guys in the conference that like I think if you compared some highlights nice to each other, they wouldn't look too different, you know?
Hey, if we get like the video really refined for this podcast and we start posting them on YouTube, we'll do some Jack Marshall basketball highlight reviews. How about that? That'll be
Okay.
like a
We
subscriber.
just as long as it's not against Manhattan Christian, we'll be all right. All right.
We
Call the
get
local
Caleb
kids
Bell.
lurking.
Let's
The
get
Montana
Caleb Bellich on
Grizzlies.
the pod.
No.
Let's get Caleb Bellich on the pod. Okay.
Frontier Podcast.
Are we on to the University of Montana?
Yep, yep.
Okay, let's start with the positive here because Montana is a
You sure you don't want to do it the other way around?
no, I
Okay,
I feel I like to start with the good news.
okay, okay.
Awesome win against UNLV. I mean, what
That was a
we're just
big win.
we're just gonna start off right there. Like you there, I mean, that's the best, it is the best non-conference win out of all the Big Sky teams.
That's not
Uh,
true. There's a better one.
There's a better one?
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Oh, never
Northern
mind.
Colorado
Sorry.
beat
Sorry,
Colorado.
I
Second
spoke
best,
a
second
little
best,
too early. Second best. Second
second
best
best.
by far. I forgot there is a really good one, and I watched that game too, and that was pretty amazing. So, second best. But like, I mean, this UNLV is a team that is consistently one of the best in the Mountain West. I mean, you would be hard pressed to like bet against them in a game like this. So, um, UM did it pretty reasonably, like in pretty decent fashion. So I like that. It was a good win. It was a good win. Easily the second best win. Um, However, we have to talk about. Here's the thing: is they actually have like one pretty bad D1 loss, and obviously the elephant in the room, which is the loss to Montana Tech, um,
NAIA Montana Tech.
and NAIA
Yeah.
Montana Tech. We're saying this isn't a Frontier Conference podcast, but we've mentioned a couple of Frontier teams, and um, yeah, I mean, there's really not an excuse. I know like the team was not the healthiest when they played Montana Tech, but I also don't see a world where even a beat up Montana team should lose to Montana Tech. It's a good team. Montana Tech is a good team for the NAIA. It is still an unacceptable loss to have, even if there's no like net rating tank or anything, like it's still bad. Like you cannot justify that loss at all. It for me when that happened, it erased the UNLV win for me in a lot of ways. Like I couldn't think about like, oh, they beat UNLV, they played Texas A&M really close. Like those things felt so long ago when they lost to Tech. Like
Yeah.
that's like the frustrating thing I think as a team, like when you lose to a school like that, and we saw it with Montana State when they lost to Rocky Mountain. Like those are bad losses, regardless of who you've beat, who you've played before that. Like it tanks your morale. The fact that they have been able to overcome that coming into conference has been great. It still sucks though. I will say their worst Division 1 loss was by far to 230 Lamar. That's just not a good loss either. Like you,
I was
I expect
at home too at their
that.
Thanksgiving tournament.
Exactly. Like they do these Thanksgiving tournaments every year. They usually do pretty decent, but like I expected them to lose to Oakland. Like Oakland was a good team and I thought it was a great little game to bring Oakland to Montana was actually really cool. I'm glad they got that game against Campy's squad, but I mean, like losing to Lamar is a bad D1 loss, and losing to Tech is an even worse loss at any scale. So that's all I have to say about that. But it was bad. It was bad, and it wasn't even particularly close either, which sucks. Like there was not a point where I thought there was really going to be like a comeback. Like I thought Tech kind of had him that whole, especially that whole second half, even where it looked a little close. Like Tech controlled the tempo of that game in a way that Montana never. It didn't do over 4 quarters. So
Yeah, but the good news is net rating wise, obviously doesn't affect them at
yes.
all. But you're in the Big
Mhm.
Sky, so unless they run the table,
Yeah,
Montana specifically, it's gonna be hard to get our first Big Sky Conference NCAA tournament win just because of how the net rating kind of affects all the teams and how low the conference is rated. So that
exactly.
we're gonna get into bracketology in a little bit, but
Mhm.
at least that helps them out. And obviously, we saw, like you said, when Montana State lost to Rocky Mountain, they still made the chip that year,
Mhm.
and that
Yes.
that year was the closest we've came really in a while to getting a win in the tournament
Yeah,
because
that
they
was
played in the 16 round of 16 or the first four. That's it.
first four. Yeah, we can't forget about that. But Grambling State,
Grambling though,
shout out Honestly, I watched that whole game. Grambling, that was a team that I mean they had balls. Like they were legit.
they
So
rallied. Yeah.
that was a pretty good win for them.
All right, final two teams in our standings here: Idaho and Northern Colorado. I think I looked at both of them. Um, First things first, where I put Idaho. Idaho, I kind of narrowed it down for them. They had a really good win for them and also Ken Palm. They beat Washington State.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, that rivalry game right there being right in by Pullman there in Moscow.
Mhm.
So you beat them, and that was just so start off the year too. So that's a huge win.
Mhm.
And Washington State's not great, but 156 Ken Palm's pretty high
Yeah.
um, for like some of the Big Sky teams. Obviously, Idaho's at 187. Like there's a couple teams. I think the best Ken Palm team and they're all around there. If the end of the season they'll get higher up some of the Big Sky teams. But yeah, and then they also beat Cal State Northridge, which
Mhm.
they're one 120 in Ken Palm, which is even higher than Washington State actually. But it's kind of like that whole obviously Washington State not Power Five anymore, but that whole
Mhm.
thing too. But just when you're like, oh, that's a really big win, it's like the Montana thing. They lost to 304 Cal State Bakersfield.
Yeah. Which is
That's
a team that's a team that we've seen lose like by like
they moved
20
up to
on the Big
294. My apologies to Cal State Bakersfield. They got that the ratings are always shifted on Ken Palm, but that's still they're out of the 300s, but that's still a bad loss. I think
Yeah.
they've gotten a couple wins since then, but they're just not a very good team. They were really offensive rating. They're like almost 300th in offensive rating, and their defensive ratings in a similar zone. So.
Yep.
Okay, and then finally Northern Colorado, who we're gonna get into bracketology here in a little bit, but they came in leading the Big Sky Conference, and then they dropped two on the road to both Montana
Mhm.
schools, which will happen. But
Mhm.
Northern Colorado, 161 in Ken Palm. Um, Lower than Montana State though, but
Yeah.
and that's because they did have some tough losses. They lost that St. Thomas team that a couple Big Sky teams beat,
Mhm.
and then they lost to 259 Denver. Not good. 259 is pretty far back there. That
Mhm.
Denver team, the litmus test. Who knows? But then, of course, Northern Colorado always finds like really really good basketball players out of nowhere. They had
Yeah.
Dalton Connect. They had that I'm blank. I don't even remember all their names. They had the Rodenbaugh guy. They had that kid from Kuntz, Stan Kuntz, Colorado transfer is
Yeah.
really good. Terrorized the league for a couple years. Now they
It's
got now they have Quinn Danger, who's
yeah.
really good. So they
Yep.
beat Colorado, who's 86, top 100 in Ken
Yes.
Palm. I think that's the only top 100 Ken Palm victory the Big Sky got.
Yeah.
Really good, really good. UNLV was probably top 100 Ken Palm when the Grizz beat them. I'll bet you.
I was gonna
I think their
say
season's been a little derailed. The Grizz probably derailed their season a little bit with that.
yeah.
And then they beat Pepperdine, Portland, and Cal State Fullerton. It was 215, so that's not a bad one either.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, UNLV is definitely up or down, sorry, down since since when they played Montana. So, but I mean, yeah, you were right when almost said it was the best. Yeah, that Colorado win. I mean, that was a, there's a very recent tournament team. So like you really like to see, yeah, you like to see that. Obviously not not a tournament team last year, right? The year before.
Northern Colorado.
No, Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. Yeah, I think so. They made it in one of the last couple of years. I don't know. We're mid-major guys, you know.
Yeah, we watched March Madness for the first day or
Yeah, I
two.
watched the first. I watched until the Big Sky team loses.
Yeah, we're not in it for very
I
long.
don't
So
care anymore. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna take a break for Zoom related reasons and come back with some MVP picks.
oh
But
yeah.
we will do bracketology every week.
Yeah.
Um, so ESPN, there was just a little later. I don't know how CBS didn't say when there's updated, but ESPN had Northern Colorado in, team with the best record gets in bracketology in small conferences versus number 14 Illinois in Portland. So like not too bad of a travel for Northern Colorado, but the Illini are actually number 8 Ken Palm team and number 20 AP ranked team. So rather than so it's like 3 seed territory, but that would not be great. And CBS has Montana in as a 15 seed versus Alabama as a 2 seed, who would be 13th in Ken Palm and 14th in AP. So which one of those two do you like better?
Uh, like I don't it's we always hate the poison pill of like obviously like neither are going to be great, but I like probably prefer Alabama. I think Illinois like is like here's the thing. Illinois is 20th in the AP poll. They are
Yeah.
8th in Ken Palm. Illinois is one of those teams that makes runs happen. I know Alabama's great, but like I prefer Alabama a little bit more. I think Illinois is one of those teams that I think they have a better chance of making a Final Four than Alabama does. They they are sneaky. They're a team I would not underestimate. When you're top 10 in Ken Palm, that says a lot. Even like I I like obviously the AP poll maybe doesn't obviously they're gonna look at different things than what Ken Palm does. Obviously, Ken Palm is very numbers based, and I like the numbers a little bit more with Illinois here. So obviously, no, Northern Colorado doesn't have to travel as far. I still think Illinois is a team I don't want to see in the tournament. If I am any Big Sky Conference team, if I am any mid-major team, Illinois is not the team that is going to get Cinderella'd. I think Alabama is, but obviously I'm not like super high on Montana being the Cinderella team out of the Big Sky Conference, unfortunately. Even if Northern Colorado is not the best team going into the Big Sky tournament, I still think Northern Colorado, if they win it, is probably the team I would pick to be the Cinderella out of all of them. But Illinois is not the team that they
Okay.
want to play.
All right, I'm still open for a 16 play-in seat so we can get our Big Sky Conference tournament win. But anyway,
Cross.
moving on, MVP pick. We'll just instead after we'll maybe pick what we think of maybe like newcomer or freshman of the year week to week. But we'll start with our MVP pick, and then every week we'll pick a player of the week. And if the Big Sky Conference doesn't get it, we'll get points because we also do a pick 'em every week after this. You'll get a point if you correctly pick the player of the week, and if the Big Sky doesn't pick our guy, they're kind of in the doghouse. So we'll start with MVP. We both picked the same guy, Max. Who's the MVP if the season ends right now?
The guy I've been alluding to earlier, Jalen Henderson. I've been hyping up Portland State. They're probably my favorite team just right now out of the Big Sky. They're the team I like the most, the one I enjoy watching the most. For the most part, I think they're fun. Like you said, Jack, they always have guys that are just like athletic and fun to watch, and like it's a good brand of basketball that they play. Um, Jalen Henderson plays it the best. I mean, he is third in points per game, second assists per game, second in steals per game. Like the thing is, and I think where he kind of detaches himself from maybe Money Williams or Quinn Denker, like these other really good guys who I think have a legitimate argument to be Big Sky MVPs still, um, is defensively he is extremely strong. Obviously he can score the ball when his when, his offensive game is rolling, like Portland State is really tough to beat. You look at the games where he doesn't perform very well, it's very obvious that Portland State needs him to be the engine. And they have guys like Terry Miller, who's really good, but he is kind of the core right now. When he is on a different level. And yeah, I mean, I love what I see from him. And I think if he is consistently the best version of himself throughout conference play, I would not want to bet against Portland State in basically any of these matchups. So yeah, I really like him. And don't be surprised if even if Portland State maybe falls off a little bit, don't be surprised if Jalen Henderson is still um, that top guy for a lot of people.
Well, the most ridiculous thing too is Portland State. Henderson's third in points per game in the conference. I think second might be Dunker Williams. It's one of those two.
Yeah.
Terry Miller Jr. is also on the Portland State Vikings and leads the conference in
Yes.
scoring. Like Henderson doesn't even lead his own team in points per game, that is.
Yes.
Henderson Miller Jr.'s missed a few games and he's not quite like as good of a passer, like we were saying. He gets a couple rebounds. He's a little bigger than
Mhm.
Henderson. He's not a guard.
Mhm.
But that's and you're like, okay, so Portland State has two guys who are both top of the conference in scoring. Surely they're best team in the conference. Like, no, of course they're not. They're 8-5. But that's just classic Portland State stuff, I think. Those guys are pretty good. Hopefully, uh, we'll get to see Henderson play. I think the craziest thing too, because right now sometimes you just give it to the team with the best player on the best team. So you give it
Mhm.
to maybe Denker or Williams too. But out of
Mhm.
all those guys, Denker, Williams, and Henderson, Henderson also has the best assist to turnover ratio out of all of them, which I think is pretty good. So
Yeah.
yeah, right now it's him, but you could probably give it to the other guys, those other two guys too, if their team's the best team. Um, Player of the week, you start.
Um, I picked money, big
Ray
money,
Williams, yeah,
Money Williams. This is for the. I need to make this very clear. This is for this last week, correct?
yeah. This last like cat like the two Big Sky games.
Yep. Yeah. No money.
Yeah,
Money Williams. Obviously, you look at his NAU game and maybe you like squint a little bit, but it was obviously not his best performance ever. They still won the game, and he was also really efficient, even if it wasn't like the craziest scoring numbers. So I don't really hate that game. But I mean, Northern Colorado, 31 points. I mean, he willed that team back to life, basically, even though Montana was doing really well
yeah. They
against
were winning at halftime, and he had like zero
their,
points.
yeah, like that's the thing is like they were winning, but it's crazy to me that like you can still be winning at halftime, have your best player have 0 points, and still need a revival. And that revival comes in 31 points from Money Williams. Obviously, a lot of those points, I know a lot of people really hate the like free throw like numbers, like 17, but he was
Hey, that the
17%.
NBA MVP shoots a lot of free throws.
Exactly. Here's the thing is if you make all 17 of your attempts, like, what more can you ask for than a guy getting to the basket, getting getting fouled, playing tough basketball, and making those attempts, making those opportunities count? I just feel like it's really obviously there's I was looking at your players of the week, and I feel like maybe Money might not be on paper as close to those guys, but I personally think out of the week I was just most impressed with what he was able to do. And I think that one game is worth the whole week for me. Like,
Yeah,
can't
I think it was a historic game too. I think the second most points and a half ever for a Montana basketball player.
Mhm.
Oh, that's pretty good. And he
Oh
to your point of kind of how he gets to the line, he's a lefty and he's kind of like a non-traditional like in the just kind of in like James Harden-esque. Obviously James Harden, another guy who's always a lefty who shoots a lot of free throws from time to time, but they're just
mhm.
like pure scorers where he's really good at kind of playing in defenders and like even with the lefty and like his just style, like guaranteed a couple free throws a game. But he's if you watch him, he's really good at and one. Like he's not just trying to
Yes.
get fouled. He converts a lot of them too. So anyway, my player of the week. I was gonna pick Henderson. He did have 34 against Weber in that overtime game, but Portland State's always scoring a bunch of points, and he didn't shoot very well. I like, guy reminds me of myself a little bit, back in the day. Jed Miller, Montana State Bobcat.
That's
Um,
like we can't just be throwing out.
no, 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 no. Listen, hold the phone here. Let me tell you a couple things about him. He's listed as 6'2" on the roster. He's not 6'2". They gave him he might be 6 foot, but Jed Miller, his first 3 years at Montana State, you know how many TikToks he made? Probably like 500. Didn't start a game. This season, zero TikToks during the regular season, has started 15 games, all 15 for the Cats. Last year, in all those years combined, he averaged 13 points per game this year for the Bobcats. Um, Program guy right there. Like, all that is great stuff. Like he's done with TikTok. He's playing basketball. He's having a career year. Hey, they went 2-0 this week. He put 24 up in 22, shot 9 for 14 and 8 for 15 as a short guard, not as a post. I think he's my player of the week. They're probably gonna give it to maybe they're probably gonna give it to Henderson, but and they give it to Money Williams, so you could get a point. But I think he's the people's player of the week, Jed Miller.
I think sometimes it's easy to fall into the recency bias of like the most re that like that Saturday game. Like if you have a great Saturday game, like I feel
Yeah,
like
that really does help.
it sometimes
You, you
eliminates
you
the
could have been
Thursday
terrible
night.
on Thursday, but if you drop 25 on Saturday and you win, they're like, this guy's so good.
Yeah, like I obviously it's flawed logic, but also like Saturday is kind of at least for me like the Big Sky primetime game because obviously you get the women's games at 2 and then you get obviously or a lot of the women's games at 2 or the men's games at 7 or whatever. Sometimes it flip-flops, but like that's kind of the Big Sky day for me. Obviously you have the Thursday night games that are really nice, but like if you do well on Saturday, I would not be shocked if that, a poor Thursday night performance doesn't really affect you. But yeah, I mean, I totally
Hey,
agree with you about
if
Jed
Jed
Miller.
Miller scores 18 or more, the Bobcats win.
That's a good stat. That is
He's
a
only
good
done
stat.
that 3 times, but
I
two of those
mean,
three were in his last 2 games. Hey, those are career games for him.
yeah, and
Anyway,
I think you're right too about like um yeah, no, I mean I don't like your stat of the 500 TikToks. I
hey,
can't
no,
verify
he's
that
got
on
like 20,000 followers on TikTok. Like he was always posting stuff on TikTok, and then this
yeah.
year he stopped, and now he's having a career.
I, so you're telling me you're comparing yourself to Jed Miller. Does that mean you're off the TikTok now and you're back
No,
on?
this is going right to TikTok.
This is
If you
going.
could put a whole podcast on TikTok, I'd put it on there. But no, I
Jeez.
just mean, he did his time.
He
All right,
good. Good.
moving on. We just picked our player of the week, but time to pick the Thursday games, the overshadowed games, as Max says, the ones no one you're only watching if your son's on the team, or you
Mhm.
really like Big Sky basketball, or maybe you throw down a parlay on these 3 picks. We don't know the spreads yet, so I can't even tell you exactly what to put, and we're not a gambling podcast, right?
We are
But
not. You know.
one of us might put down a bet on these 3 picks, depending on how they're feeling on a Thursday night.
Yeah, I wonder who's gonna be the one to put down the money on these games.
And now that I'm looking at this and I have public currency, I might change. Honestly, I think I might change my pick to your pick too.
Oh, okay. That's not you.
Now it's a little different when the money's coming from you and you're making a fake parlay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so the Thursday games we can get into we'll talk about the Saturday games more on the next podcast. But take us through. Let's check out the schedule here on. Do you have the schedule pulled up before I do?
Yeah, I do have the schedule.
Okay, take us through our picks.
Okay, so I guess starting off, Weber State NAU.
Yep.
We both picked Weber State. I
Yep.
don't think that's a bad
That's
pick,
gonna be a
but I
close
also
one.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be close. Like I think you really can't like if you pick NAU, I don't think you can really go wrong. Like that's another thing. Like if we're talking betting odds and like I don't think the spread's gonna be super big on this one. So I think you have a very interesting game. If you're a bettor, I think it's an interesting game. But like I mean, it's just like it's really hard in the Big Sky to be like a road dog, in my opinion. Like we
Yeah.
just talked about it with Northern Colorado. That's probably the best team in the Big Sky, in my opinion. But like they still lost, and that's just proof that even the top teams, it is really hard to play on the road here. So if I think Weber State pulling one out would be probably a little more impressive than not, but NAU just still they're just not super impressive this year. So
No, they didn't play great in Bozeman. Obviously they get to be at home, but they've only really won at home this year, but it's hard on paper you'd think Weber would be a tiny bit better, but that'll be a hard one. And
mm,
then Idaho State, Northern Colorado, in Greeley, Northern Colorado just lost too. Idaho State's a pretty good team, but I don't see Northern Colorado losing that game.
no, I think they these next two home games for them, I don't see why they wouldn't win them. Like even if they play tough opponents, like
Yeah, and
this,
they had a like on paper, like not like Ken Palm necessarily or strength of schedule wise, but just in terms of winning, they had a pretty good non. And that Colorado win was big. They had a pretty good non-conference, so they want to be able to. If they're thinking, obviously you can't think too far ahead of the tournament, but Northern Colorado can't just be dropping Big Sky games left and right if they want a good tournament resume. And then
no.
a game that'll be fun to watch. I think probably the Thursday game of the week for sure is Montana at Idaho. Like we said, Montana, some good wins, some bad wins. They're rivals in football, basketball. Not quite as much. But it's a tough conference, and it's on the road. Our guy James is probably going to be tweeting at the refs in the Big Sky Conference. If only you could get fined as a fan, like you could as like Sacramento State's football coach did this year, James would be in some hot water. Shout out our guy James. He's a Montana kid too. He's a big Idaho fan. So I'll have to check his Twitter account when the game rolls around, but that should be a good one.
Yeah, I
And
would
then
agree.
obviously Montana State goes to Eastern. Eastern, there's nothing that we picked. We both picked Montana to win that Idaho game. I think Montana. I wanted to pick Idaho. And that is Montana does drop road games like that in conference, but they impress quite a bit, and I don't know as much about this Idaho team. So this should be a big win for them. That'll get my attention next time I'm making my picks. So we picked them, and then obviously Montana State over Eastern. Obviously Montana State the road dog, but Eastern had a really tough year. Montana State's looked pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree. I would not bet Eastern. I think Eastern probably loses every big game they play, and then they'll probably pull out a couple random wins against the other bottom feeders. Eastern Sac State will probably be, that'll probably be a really big game for both those teams. So
Hey, if my guy Andrew Cook returns from injury and they play and he scores more than Mikey Williams, I'm gonna start a conversation. All right.
I mean, I would love to see him come back from injury. I mean, here's the thing, he's good. He's good. Andrew Cook, if you ever listen to this, we're rooting for you. We want to
Oh,
see you do
yeah.
well.
He's my boy. He was first team all conference preseason, but I don't think he's played at all this year, so it's
No.
too bad.
So
Maybe they'll give him another year of eligibility. Okay. So final part is our guessing game of the week. So if you only here for Big Sky basketball analysis, tune out. Max doesn't know these pre-game. So, Big Sky Conference basketball pod, hot topics. You have to guess which Big Sky Conference schools are closest and farthest away from Raising Cane's. Hold on, give me a minute here.
oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Okay,
oh
so I'll
dude,
give you
this
I'll give you a second to think about this. I'm
uh,
gonna add. I have a background I got preloaded for this game. Where'd it go? Video
really?
and effects edit.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, virtual backgrounds. Because I'm here we go. Okay, I'm in a Raising Cane's now. Have you ever been to Raising Cane's?
I went when I covered the University of Montana Grizz football team when they went to Frisco
Okay.
and unfortunately lost to the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. I went to Raising Cane's, and it's as good as they say.
Yeah.
Also, the secret tech, if you've never been to Raising Cane's, if you're like a Montana kid like me and you get really lucky and go to somewhere, if you get the Caniac combo, but sub slaw for an extra Texas toast. Get two Texas toasts. That's the hack. That's all you need to know.
Okay. Okay. So we'll start with the bottom, and then you can guess the top. So I won't try to reveal too much. You get two strikes. So guess the three. There's 10 Big Sky Conference schools, right? In basketball.
Yes. Yeah, there's
So
10.
we'll
I
start
just
on the bottom. Guess the three Big Sky Conference schools farthest and then closest to Canes. So we'll start farthest away from Canes. Three Big Sky Conference.
These
Look at the standings too, if that helps.
I'm looking at this.
And
These do these
this
have
is
to be
all
in
Jack Marshall fact checked. So
any? Okay. Do these have to be?
if you're in Bozeman and they just open the Canes down the road, let me know.
My God, is these bottom three in order, or is this just the three farthest in any order?
If you, I'll count it if you get one of them. Like
Okay.
you can
So
start you can try to go in order. I don't think it's gonna work though.
no, I don't. No, I don't think it will. I feel like okay. I'm trying to think. I've looked up the closest Raising Cane's to
Okay, also there's one being built that factors into one of the schools.
really God. Okay, well
That probably that might help you.
that probably. Oh, I actually think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna keep that in. But I feel like both the Montana schools are down there, right?
yeah.
Okay. Both UM and MSU. Okay.
I
Both
don't
UM and
these you probably know this already, so I'll give it away as a hint. Montana State is closest in Twin Falls, Idaho. Montana's is in Coeur d'Alene. Montana State is 358 miles from McCain's. Montana's 169. They're building one in Coeur d'Alene, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that was not the one I was thinking of. Damn it. Okay.
They may have already
Ah,
built the one you're thinking of, but there's one they built in Coeur d'Alene.
okay.
Okay,
Shit.
so now you still have two strikes. You're good to go. Who
Wait,
who's
oh
the
wait, so but those are both
those
those
both count. Those are the two farthest.
those are okay, so that okay, that I was worried that was gonna be like,
No.
oh,
So the third farthest away is this is where it's gonna get hard from here.
I was gonna say the third farthest away. I don't even this is
Well, if
I'm
you get
gonna
it wrong, I'll tell you, and then we'll go to the closes.
okay.
Then you'll just have to guess like three of the seven.
Crap. Okay. Is it Idaho State?
It
Poca
is.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I'm like Pocatello is like it's kind of close to Salt Lake, and I don't know if Salt Lake has one, but like
There's one in Logan, Utah.
oh, okay, Logan.
That's
Okay, so just
90 miles from Idaho State's campus. You can go get canes.
wow, Logan.
Okay,
I've been to Logan. It's actually like it's a weird route to get because it's obviously Utah State's there. You have to like
okay.
go off the interstate to get there. So very
That's
interesting.
true. That's true. Okay. We're moving in the top three Big Sky Conference schools. This is where it's actually hard. Closest to a Raising Canes.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Portland State.
Or we'll say it's number one.
That was gonna say because they that was what I was thinking because I'm pretty sure they had like built one recently or they had already had
There's one
I know
that's
they
like it says it's a half mile from like the location of Portland State's campus. It might be on their campus. I'm not totally sure, but there's
yeah
one like there.
okay so Portland State okay they're number one.
You got two strikes to play with. This is pretty good odds for you not to lose.
I was gonna say I feel pretty solid. I thought that was gonna do a lot worse, but I guess my Raising Cane's knowledge is kind of unmatched right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Sac State just because it's also big, but
No, there's your first strike. So Sac State is for there's not any Raising Canes in Sacramento, from what I understand.
that sucks. Okay,
Unless my Canes location finder sucks, but I'm pretty sure it's good.
okay,
Um, because it's like a Midwest thing, right? So the
that was
nearest one
more.
is in Lodi, California, 40 miles from Sac State's campus. Okay, so you
Okay,
got
so
one.
okay, 40 is like not really that far. So now I'm really, because that's the thing is I was thinking of like
Yeah.
this isn't my guess at the moment, but I was thinking of like how far is Greeley from like the closest Raising Canes, but
Okay, okay,
I don't think Greeley is that far because that would be the closest one would have to be like in Denver, I'm pretty sure. And I'm
okay,
Denver's pretty dark. I mean, northern Colorado, obviously, it's like pretty far up there. So um okay, so then I probably have to go with Weber State then. I should have said Weber
okay.
State
Weber State's third.
because they're Ogden's really close to Logan,
Yeah,
obviously.
it's in Riverdale, Utah, but it's like pretty much
Oh,
in Ogden. The
okay.
the the Raising Cane's is in Riverdale, so 2.8 miles from Weber
Okay.
State's campus.
Is that second
That's
closest?
third. That's third
That's
closest.
no, there's one. Okay, so there's one a half in between a half mile and
Yeah, there's a Raising Cane's that's 1.4 miles from this Big Sky campus.
okay. So I can
You've already guessed one, so it's between there's three other left.
right. Okay, so I haven't all right. I haven't guessed NAU, I haven't guessed Idaho, and I haven't guessed Northern Colorado technically. Um
And Eastern Washington.
oh, and Eastern. Right.
Yeah,
Eastern.
yeah.
Oh, sh no. Okay. So
Throwing that out
Eastern
there.
I was gonna so but the thing is like I'm thinking about where Cheney's like
I want to make it
40.
easier for you, but if there was a Cane's in Genie, Washington,
There's no like that's the thing is like they're like 40 minutes away from Spokane and I don't and Spokane doesn't have one. So I
are you
got
are you sure about that?
I don't even if they do it's like pretty it's farther than 2.8 miles away. So I'm knocking Cheney off.
Okay.
They're off the list. Northern Colorado is gonna probably be is there okay. Oh, is there one in I think I'm gonna go with Northern Arizona.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
Okay. Is there
There's
one
one there's
in
one in
Flagstaff?
Flagstaff. There's only like two in the state and one's in Flagstaff.
That's crazy. Shout
Hey,
out my
only
buddy.
one strike. Look at that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I was a little worried. I couldn't remember, but I feel like I've seen and that Flagstaff had one because my buddy lives there. So okay,
Yeah. Well,
interesting.
I'll have to find like some. I mean, we might do some more like who scored the most points in a game or like all-time leading scorers. But I know we both don't have like the most like fundamental ball knowledge. But with that one, it's like sort of like those like NIU kind of caught me off guard how close it was. Like Weaver and Portland, not so much. But obviously, all those remote schools make it hard. But it goes Portland State point 0.5, NIU 1.4, like right there in Flagstaff. And
Okay,
Weaver's got one close. Eastern Washington's fourth. They're only
okay.
23 miles from the one in Spokane. So it must be on their side of Spokane.
Oh yeah, that's actually
Yeah,
okay.
and
I
then
guess
UNC's fifth. They're ahead of Sac State. There's one in Longmont. There's one in like the north end of Denver.
okay.
Uh, and then Sac State, right? And then Idaho. Idaho's is also the closest one on Spokane. And
Right.
then Idaho State, Montana State.
Okay. So we are not technically the farthest away from a Raising Cane's, which is pretty
No,
great.
and Montana State's farther.
They're farther perfect. That's
Well,
all
I
I
guess, but the one in Coeur d'Alene's not open, but we're still closer than I think we're still closer to the Spokane one than they are in Bozeman.
half my family lives in Spokane. I just know where I'm going this summer. Once, well,
Okay.
assuming it gets built.
They also opened one somewhere around Boise, I think. So for the conference tournament.
Hey, the people of or the government of the state of Idaho make it easier to get to Boise, and then maybe I'll stop by for some Raising
Yeah, I
Cane.
don't have to drive some desolate dirt road to get there. But anyway, that's our first. That's all we really have for the first episode. Next week we'll come back with some more bracketology, update on how our picks did and all the teams did. Maybe we'll get into the sixth man of the year. I have a
Ooh,
feeling I'm gonna find the guy who reminds me of myself.
gosh.
All right.
They list you as a little bit taller on the they list you as like 5'8" on the roster instead of 5'6" or
Yeah, just a guy that might maybe six flat on the listed roster. You know.
oh
All
my
right.
God.
That's all we
Okay.
got for this episode. Wherever you're watching this or listening to this, like and subscribe.